I'm John Beaudin. This is Rock History Music. These are features that we're starting to do on this channel, which shake things up a little bit when we look at the history of rock and roll. There have been a lot of passings in rock and roll, especially the last little while. And every time it seems to happen, there's like a little piece of our heart that goes, oh man, that guy was my hero. And or you might start feeling a little old because most of our rocker heroes are like maybe 10, 20 years older than us. So this list is just some of the harder ones that we lost. This is Rock History Music. This list has a lot of obvious choices. The first in a series always have the ones that we can't miss. Kurt Cobain of Nirvana. He was born Kurt Donald Cobain, February 20th, 1967. He passed on April 5th, 1994. He was born in Aberdeen, Washington, and of course was the frontman of one of the biggest grunge bands of all time, Nirvana. He was serving as the band's guitarist, lead vocalist, and main songwriter. His influences were the Beatles, Led Zeppelin, AC/DC, Black Sabbath, Aerosmith, Queen, and Kiss. He formed Nirvana with Chris Novoselic and Aaron Burkhart in 1987. And let's not forget Dave Grohl was in that band, who later formed, of course, the Foo Fighters. They were signed to the label DGC, and their songs became signature tunes for that genre of grunge. Smells Like Teen Spirit from their second album, Nevermind. Come As You Are, Lithium, In Bloom, Heart-Shaped Box, All Apologies About a Girl, Aneurysms, and You Know You're Right. The problem was Cobain suffered from substance abuse and depression, not a good combination. His wife, Courtney Love, had her own problems, and the mix made for a lot of ups and downs in that relationship. In March 1994, Cobain overdosed, had an intervention, and went to detox. But on April 8, 1994, Cobain was found dead at his home in Seattle. He was only 27, adding him to that famous 27 group. The police investigation said he had died on April 5th from a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head. Brad Delp of Boston. He was born Bradley Edward Delp, June 12, 1951, and he passed March 9, 2007. He was born in Peabody, Massachusetts, and was the lead singer of one of the greatest rock bands of all time, Boston, as well as RTZ and his Beatles cover band, Beetlejuice. In 1969, guitarist Barry Goudreau introduced Brad Delp to Tom Scholz, who was looking for a singer because he was putting together demos. They went on to form a short-lived band called Mother's Milk, which lasted from 73 to 74. And that group also included Delp and Goudreau. After that demo, Epic Records eventually signed the band, but the group name was changed to Boston. And their self-titled debut album, recorded in 1975, was released August 1976. Let's keep in mind a lot of those songs had been written years before. Delp performed all the lead vocals and backing harmonies, and that album would go on to sell over 20 million copies. Many folks remember, you probably do, hearing More Than a Feeling on the radio for the first time, and as well as Foreplay, Long Time, and Peace of Mind. Like Rumors from Fleetwood Mac, anyone growing up in the 70s would know every track from the debut Boston album. Delp was also a guitar player. He played harmonica and keyboards. The band's next album was called Don't Look Back, which sounded a lot like the first. It was released August 1978. In 1991, Bradley Delp and Barry Goudreau formed the band RTZ. And before that, Bradley Delp also performed on Goudreau's self-titled solo album. On March 9, 2007, Delp committed suicide by carbon monoxide poisoning in his home at Atkinson, New Hampshire. The day after his death, Boston's website was temporarily closed down, and their homepage featured a background with white text saying, "We just lost the nicest guy in rock and roll." Lane Staley of Alice in Chains. He was born Lane Rutherford Staley, August 22, 1967. We lost him April 5, 2002, in Kirkland, Washington. The lead singer of Alice in Chains was also a member of the band Sleaze and the supergroups Mad Season and Class of '99. It was the second single from their debut album, Facelift, Man in a Box, where Staley started getting a lot of recognition for his vocal style. Then came Alice in Chains' EP, Jar of Flies, in '94. It debuted at number 1 on the Billboard 200. Unfortunately, Staley had a lot of problems with addiction, which put him in rehab many times. His addiction was so prominent that it changed the way he looked dramatically. On April 10, 1996, Alice in Chains returned for a stint on MTV Unplugged in New York. It was their first concert in over 2 years, but after that, Staley never saw the spotlight again. He overdosed on a speedball. April 5th, 2002, he was only 34. George Harrison of the Beatles. He was born February 25th, 1943, and we lost him November 29th, 2001. Of course, the lead guitarist and one of the singers in the Beatles, he was known as the Quiet Beatle. He embraced the Indian culture quite a bit, with Hindu spirituality being put in the Beatles' work. Of course, we all know the bulk of the Beatles' material was written by John Lennon and Paul McCartney, but there were great George Harrison songs like Taxman, Within You, Without You, While My Guitar Gently Weeps, Here Comes the Sun, and Something. Harrison's musical influences were Carl Perkins, Chet Atkins, and Chuck Berry. He was a big part of the Beatles getting into Transcendental Meditation, or TM, in 1967, and his association with the Hare Krishna movement. After the band broke up in 1970, Harrison released his magnum opus, All Things Must Pass, with the very successful hit My Sweet Lord, and the following year he organized the concert for Bangladesh with Indian musician Ravi Shankar. Another one of the George Harrison highlights, in 1988 he co-founded the band The Travelin' Wilburys with Jeff Lynne, Roy Orbison, Bob Dylan, and Tom Petty. Rolling Stone magazine ranked George Harrison number 11 in their list of 100 greatest guitarists of all time. He's also, of course, a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductee. George Harrison died of lung cancer in 2001. He was 58 years old. That was 2 years after surviving a knife attack from an intruder in his home. Another Beatle, John Lennon. This one is a moment in time for a lot of people. He was born John Winston Lennon, October 9th, 1940. We lost him December 8th, 1980. He was a peace activist. In 1956, he formed the Quarrymen, which later became the Beatles in 1960. He was anti-war and very much into love. Everyone can remember All You Need Is Love. In 1969, Lennon formed the Plastic Ono Band with his second wife, Yoko Ono. And everyone remembers that anti-war demonstration, Beds In for Peace. He had a lot of top 10 singles like Give Peace a Chance, Instant Karma, Imagine, Happy Christmas, The War Is Over. He moved to New York in 1971, but the Richard Nixon administration tried to get him out of the country because of his criticism for the Vietnam War. John Lennon and Yoko Ono separated from 73 to 75. Other highlights in his solo career were his collaboration with Elton John with Whatever Gets You Through the Night, and David Bowie with Fame. The world was excited when it was announced that John Lennon was coming back with an album to be released in 1980 called Double Fantasy. Unfortunately, he was shot and killed by a Beatles fan, Mark David Chapman, who was suffering from severe mental illness 3 weeks after the album's release. John Lennon was the writer or co-writer of 25 number one singles on the Billboard Hot 100. And Double Fantasy, by the way, was his best-selling album, and it won the 1981 Grammy for Album of the Year. Rolling Stone magazine ranked John Lennon the 5th greatest singer and the 38th greatest artist of all time. He was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1997, and he is still missed and always will be missed. As I said, these are the obvious choices for our first list. There are a lot of other ones. There's Elvis, Roy Orbison. The list is long, but this is part one. So before we say, how could you leave someone out of the list? It's part one. All the first in a series is always part one. So let us know who are the saddest passings from your past, and we'll add them to part two if this video does well. Make sure you comment on our video, subscribe to our channel, and share our videos. I'm John Beaudin. This is Rock History Music. Take care of yourself.